what type of man is allowed to wear a fedora still? What do you think is required to do that?
Well, a bona fide gentleman.
You're right. I'm a silly child. I don't have any hats at all.
Really?
I don't think I own a suit, to be honest. Like, you show up literally dressed to the nines, like ready to close a deal. I had to search for an hour to find a sweater that looks like someone else's.
Well, with this new generation, it's almost a norm. I had a friend of mine, he used to dress real sharp, and I haven't seen him dressed up in years. And he said, well, don't nobody get dressed up no more.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know, the whole culture is kind of changing, because if you look at when you look at not just the way humans and people dress today, but even with the music today, there's all, as Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff said in the past, there's always a message in the music. Barry Gordy, used to write message in the music, and a lot of times the messages were love messages, like if you had a certain feeling with your girlfriend.
Yeah, like songs had like a very clearly definable purpose.
No doubt. And at one time, that's how you distinguish men from women, or gentlemen from non-gentlemen, I should say, because, gentlemen try to be sophisticated, dressed to impress. And at one time, great songwriters wrote songs to impress, because you notice today, a lot of the music, there's still messages, but they're like a message to somebody saying something to their enemy.
I don't even know what the messages are. It's like, I'm on tour, I have a shirt you could buy, I take, medicine not prescribed to me. That seems to be the general consensus in music now.
Yeah, that definitely is one of them. And the great, what you would call artistic character that used to develop music that in most musicians, that's kind of diminished, because now a lot of live musicians are not even working. The machines are duplicating what musicians used to could do.
Now, do you think that's a result of record labels having more control over artists now than they used to? Like back in the day, when there were more clearly defined artists who were their own unique people, they dressed specifically, they had messages in their songs, but they seem to be a little more independent in their operation now, with like 360 deals and labels owning every part of an artist. Do you think that's contributing to it?
Well, I ain't gonna say just that. That may have a little part in it, but I think a lot of it got to do with the audience that exists today. Because you notice the audience that exists today are not the same type of audience that we used to have yesterday.
Sure.
And what I mean by that is, a lot of people may not want to agree with me, but
fuck 'em.
Basically the foundation of music, the family, the peace and love and caring that used to exist among artists and among people is not the same. It's more of a cutthroat industry that didn't exist in the past.
Which is funny, because the whole like criticism of today, or at least a generation today, is that we are collectively soft. We are about as tough as a piece of wet toilet paper. We are just not of a strong spine. But yet, like the music industry, in a weird way, it's more cutthroat than ever. But their songs are about nothing.
Exactly, and it's not building. Them songs are not building. Them songs are tearing down.
Okay.
Because, they're degrading, they're not supportive. Even great blues will always tell you about what's going wrong and what you can do about it.
What's the whole point of the genre, right?
Yes. But, but some of the music today, they don't identify with the feelings of people other than the negativity. It doesn't bring out the good spirit. Like at one time, you could count on music bringing out a good spirit. And you could feel it, you could get the Holy Ghost from a good
There's something intangible to it. Like, you just knew it was a net positive for everybody.
Exactly. Now, the music is totally different, because, I have a group, Mark Singer Band, we were contemplating on redoing the War record that was originally done by Edwin Starr, which was on Soul Records. And the reason is because of all the turmoil that's going on right now.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You know,
What's happening?
Wars and the possibility of wars.
I thought everything was great. I don't know. There's problems?
Yeah, there's always problems. And, you know, that song, you know, was written, you say, war, what is it good for?
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you a little, you know, more mature than I thought you was.
Yeah, I portray myself as an idiot, but I'm actually well-read, so that way expectations are just never too high for me.
And you notice in the past, when songwriters would be writing songs, they would write a song that almost everybody could identify with.
Immediately, too. Like, they understood instantly what this is about.
Now, you know, you might even have a problem understanding the vocabulary on some of these songs.
Yeah, or how they're saying it, because it's not like people's vocabulary has gotten better. Their just pronunciation has gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's not like people are reading more.
And the spelling of the words, too.
Spelling is a lost art at this. I don't know how to spell. I can't spell the word necessary correctly, ever. Do you have any words that like you really like get stuck on?
Well, right now I'm concerned. Do you spell fat, F-A-T, or P-H-A-T?
Well, it depends what I'm talking about, right? Or are we talking about like a fat ass?
Well, I don't know
or are we talking
that,
about like a fat bundle of like bananas or something?
Well, now I'm confused because I don't know which fat is what.
What, baby fat like the jeans, or fat like, you know, you should have type 2 diabetes?
No, but I think the P-H-A-T fat is just a style.
Somebody
might even trademark that name.
So you own a record label. I probably should have opened with that a little earlier. But you seem to really understand like what makes a good song. Are you a musician yourself, or have you always just been in the business of understanding music?
No. I went to music school when I was a kid. Learned accordion and piano, and so I've studied. I can read music. I'm not the greatest musician in the world.
Not a lot of people know how to play the accordion, and even less of them look like you.
Yeah, I can believe that.
So what? It's just I'm a little thrown by that one. Why the accordion? Are you a polka enthusiast?
Back when I was growing up in Camden, some guy was going from door to door selling accordion lessons in college.
That's a pedophile, and that's someone who should be arrested. You don't knock on doors, and I got free accordion lessons.
Back then, I guess they knocked on your door to sell clothes props.
Really?
Yeah.
Now it's just Jehovah's Witnesses, and they don't even bother to sing a song when they knock on the door.
Yeah, things change though. It's always meant to change for the better, but it doesn't always change for the better.
Yeah. So with your record label, what have you learned from like how to profit off of music, but music that's good, correct, like a good thing. Like it's not easy to get in the music business and make a living on it, even less if you're not the one making or playing the music.
True. Yeah, it's not as simple as it used to be. Because once upon a time, you could almost get a guarantee with not just a distribution deal. You could also get maybe production deals from different major labels that will go ahead and maybe even advance you and your artist something so that you can go in the studio and put good work in. Now, basically, I guess with these the internets and with the streaming process, it's a little different now than when they were pressing up records and when they were even selling these CDs to some degree. There are a lot of people right now that's trying to bring the actual tangible record back out.
Yeah, vinyl's like a thing again. Like people, they sell it at Urban Outfitters. It's really big.
And when you really look back into the history of music, I mean, the way you start off is the way you wind up.
That is some pimp shit. That's some wise. It is all circular, right? Fashion, music,
and exactly. And and it started off with a tangible record, and it's going to end up with tangible records.
So walk me through how you end up in music. Like, how do you do that? How do we end up fucking here? Like, how is this a normal place where you're saying I'm going to work and it looks like this? How does that happen?
Oh, because this place has everything that you need.
That's why. So that's why I'm here.
Soundplex Studio got everything.
So what's the 18-year-old Robert doing? Like, are you knocking on the door at a studio saying I want to be a record label owner?
No, not at that particular time. Because at that particular time I was in the music, but I was in a little bit of everything.
Let's talk about everything. That feels like you're
Well,
glossing over some stuff.
Well, one of the things I used to be a sparring partner. I used to go into the prison the raw way.
You went to fight recreationally at a prison?
Well, yeah, I was a James Scott, one of the boxers. I used to go in there to spar with them. Because Camden, we had a lot of national boxers that...
Well, yeah, rough town.
Oh, yeah, no doubt, you know. And in rough town, you got to always know how to hold your hands. And back then, you know, you grew up to be friends afterward. Wouldn't nobody shoot nobody or...
It was a simpler time. You solved issues with bloody
you had a little
knuckles.
fist fight, you become friends later.
It sounds like a joke, but I think that is a serious point. Like, if more people fought, there would be more peace.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. And also, when we were growing up in Camden, where I grew up at, you know, we had a lot of guys there who actually could sing, and a lot of guys who were great songwriters. You may know Leon Huff, you know, he was one of the writers from Camden. They wrote with Kenny Gamble when they started Philadelphia National Records. One of the groups from Camden, the Ebonies, was the first group that they signed. And then the other group was Kenny Jeremiah, who recently just passed away. They were good. The Ebonies had a song called Forever.
I know the beginning of that song. All of these songs that you mentioned, I got 30 seconds of them in my head, and that's about it. So you're boxing people in prison in Camden for fun, normal things. How do you then make the shift to like working in music professionally?
Well, Camden always had great musicians, and you know, as I said, Leon Huff was from Camden. He was one of the songwriters, and they started Philadelphia National Records, which started
the whole Philly soul sound.
The sound of Philadelphia. And the group that they had, the first group was actually from Camden, was called the Ebonies.
Yeah, Forever.
Yeah,
that's
there you go. That's great. You know, and Just Because of You was the other record that was a hit. Just Because of You, Happy Guy, You're the Reason Why. And then a friend of mine, Kenny Jeremiah, they recorded them. You know, and they were known as the Blue Eyed Soul Brothers.
That's a great name for a group of people.
Yeah, they had a record called Expressway to My Heart. And that was another hit. And after that, they just started rolling records out.
So you're just growing up around people that know these people.
Yeah, no doubt. And plus, they're all in my neighborhood. Billy Paul lived up the street from me. With matter of fact, his wife is from the same block that I'm from, and you know they got married.
So do these artists know Robert as just the guy who can get stuff accomplished? He'll box people if need be. So we need to bring him in. Like, how do you get
with the boxing situation was that I used to box with the AAU in Camden. You know, basically everybody boxed in Camden. And then,
that should be the slogan, right? Camden, everyone boxes.
You know, back then.
Yeah, Camden, everyone shoots.
You know, I was pretty good with my hands. So James Scott, he was an undefeated #1 contender raw way, and he needed a sparring partner. And so I was one of the guys that started going into prison 3 days a week to spar with him.
Not a lot of people voluntarily go to prison.
No, true. I don't think any of them do. But you know, from my city, though, we had so many great fighters. Muhammad Ali used to get boxers from our city. One of the guys named Dave Atkins from Camden was one of the boxers that worked with him. A guy named Preston Donaldson, you know, who I actually seen take it to Muhammad Ali a couple of times. He was from Camden, great fighter. Then, of course, you know, Jersey Joe Walcott, you know, Raymond on the Cream, the heavyweight champ. At one time, he was the oldest champ. He was 37 when he won the title, when he knocked out Ezra Charles.
Sheesh.
So Camden has been a foundation for some great boxers. You know, a guy named Furpo, they call it, that's his name, who actually beat Sugar Ray Robinson before.
Wow, I didn't know Camden had like an actual impressive list of like professional athletes, musicians, because now you think, you know, Darfur.
Well, they got, I believe, Billy Thompson and Milt Wagner, which is DeWine Wagner's father. I believe they're maybe the only two basketball players that won a high school championship, then a college championship together, and then
an NBA title.
Yes,
wow.
Absolutely.
From Camden.
Both from Camden.
So the talent coming out of Camden used to be through the roof.
Doubt.
And you were just there looking at all of it with mostly athletes, and then you decided, I don't want to get hit as much, so I should move into music.
Yeah, that's why I went back to college, because I did a professional fight against Angel De Leon in Atlantic City.
How'd you do?
You know, it was a draw, but I got knocked down. So
We'll take it. That's better than I would have done. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, I got up and took care of things after that. But
Put the
anyway,
hat
I
on.
realized that wasn't really my forte to be trying to be no boxer. So I just went on and got a degree in law and criminal justice.
Oh, okay. So law. That seems to be like the lane a lot of people take to be agents. People who work in entertainment business, they seem to have law degrees, but they're not lawyers. Is that kind of the way in?
Well, I mean, some, because you have to know the law in order to maintain or do business. But
It's like contracts, making sure.
yeah,
artists
but
are
a
safe.
lot, no doubt, copyrights and trademarks, all of those things. But when you talk about the music, I'm gonna say the music was probably always ingrained in me all my life.
Yeah.
Because as a child, well, I ain't gonna say a child, as a young teenager, we used to go to New York a lot. And we used to go to Small's Paradise.
Now, when we're talking you as a kid go to New York, what year? Like year roughly?
Well, I'm talking about like 1970, 68,
70s New York, like De
70.
Niro, Taxi Driver, New York.
Yeah, possibly.
Like Bodies, Times Square, New York.
Oh yes, man.
Oh yeah. That's
Queen,
now I remember. Just talk about
yeah.
the dead bodies and corpses. Thank God, Giuliani. Right?
Oh yeah, but he came later on after.
I regret bringing him up entirely. But keep going. Tell me about New York.
But anyway, we used to go to places like the Village. Used to have jazz shows and guys
You're a
like
teenager?
Herbie. Yeah, we were.
You're like allowed to
teenagers.
just go to these clubs.
Well, it wasn't like we told everybody we was going, and sometimes, when you dress sharp enough.
You just like a couple of you
You
stand
can
on
just-
each other's shoulders, trench coat.
But when you sharp, when you looking sharp, you can just walk
Right.
in with the crowd.
That's back to the point. You got to be dressed to impress.
And that's how we dressed growing up. We wore alligator shoes back then, and
I can't
wore
imagine.
cashmere coats and
Cashmere.
and
You're
beaver
14
brims,
going to a jazz club in New York City
yeah.
in cashmere.
Yeah, when I was, I'm gonna
Jesus.
say about 15 when I started wearing the alligator.
A year or two doesn't
Yeah.
make much, but that's crazy, man. Again, jeans are not something.
Matter of fact, the first clothes I used to buy was when my dad used to take me on Broadway in Camden. That was when Camden, New Jersey had stores through the whole city. There was
things made there, sold there.
Yeah, no doubt. There was everything was made in Camden, from the music at Victor Records down to
Anything.
yeah, you
So
name
you
it.
get dressed up, your mink coat as a teenager with your buddies. You go up to New York. You're in these jazz clubs where you're seeing these names that everyone knows through history, and still, how do you end up in that world though? Like, I get you love it and you feel like it's inside of you, but there has to be a point of contact where someone says, "Robert, come with us."
Oh, well, no, I ain't gonna say they say come with you. More or less you see and you say, oh, that's what I want to do.
Okay.
Because also now, mind you, while doing all of this, I also became an actor,
Dude,
a model.
what haven't you done? You were,
Oh,
well, of
man,
course, model. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm jack of all trades and the master of most.
Master of most.
Yeah, anytime
yourself
you're in the
humble.
club, I'm gonna have a toast. But but yeah, I had friends like Dick Williams who played Pretty Tony in the Mac. I was on the set when they did Superfly.
Wow.
That was some of my friends called Lee Casey. They were all my, they were friends of mine.
But how are you like making money and subsisting as a person? Like, you just knowing these people and being around
Oh
them
well,
doesn't get you
no,
paid.
just knowing them, isn't the concept of just making money. But as you get more talent, like for instance, I was in, I modeled, I was in all the black magazines, Brian Stills, Black Romance, Brian Stills. There was one called
Downtown Foxy Brown.
No, it was called Black Confession.
That was on the tip of my tongue.
And Jive. I was in Jive magazine a lot. And I don't believe they're publishing them anymore. A gentleman named Ryan Odom, he was a photographer that used
So
to.
you're legitimately like making the bulk of your money as a model.
Yeah, at that time, but
That's
now
crazy.
let me switch up on you a little bit
Whatever
too.
you need to do.
Because also I became a substitute school teacher.
Well, that
too.
makes sense. Obviously, that would be the next thing you do. Yeah.
Oh, I done did it all. I worked as a special agent for a minute.
For who?
For the Camden County prosecutor, only for a second.
For the actual like the federal government.
Yeah.
Literally, you were a special
Well,
agent.
what happened is, they needed somebody, and they contacted college, and they were looking for somebody. So I went, for
That sounds very MK Ultra to me.
Yeah, I went over
Yeah.
there for a short stay, I should say.
And what did they have you do? If you're allowed to tell me.
Well,
just tell me. Come on, it's the government. No one's listening.
If I tell you that, then they might come looking for me later.
I'm
only kidding on that one. No, I was actually working in juvenile.
Okay.
So with juvenile offenders.
Mm-hmm.
So
doing the good work.
Yeah. So if you was a juvenile offender that did something, then I may have to come get you.
So you were like the beyond scared straight guy.
Yeah, and it's funny that you should mention that too, because when we used to go in the raw way, some of the guys that we worked with, they were boxers. They were part of the Scared Straight program. James Scott.
Before it was even a TV show, it was just a real thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's one of my favorite shows on TV.
Really,
I'm sure I'm watching it for the wrong reasons, but it is one of the funniest things in the world. The things that people will yell at these 12-year-olds who are just bad in class, it gets people get creative with, like, we're going to use Kool-Aid. Like, it gets funny. Like, the things that inmates are pretty talented.
Oh, you'd be surprised, how talented some inmates are. I would say about 25-30% of the inmates might not belong there.
That's honestly probably a conservative number.
Yeah, because, you have a large, when I say quite a few members that are incarcerated, for something that they absolutely.
But tell me more about this theory. You think there is an issue with our privately owned prison system?
Oh, well, that's another problem.
What could possibly go wrong?
Not too long ago, I believe a couple of judges in Philadelphia were convicted for sentencing juveniles to one of those.
Philly doesn't have a great track record. The last district attorney is in jail currently, Seth Williams. He was a nice dude, and I'm sure I'm out of my depth when I'm about to talk about him, but he came to my high school recently, well, like 7-8 years ago when I was there, and he was a nice dude, great story, went to Central, did, the whole Philadelphia thing, and he was laundering money, and he's in jail now. So it's like, who are you supposed to trust?
Yeah, that's hard, because, he seemed like he's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, he fooled everybody. Yeah, of course you know.
Unfortunately, there's so many people get in political positions, and instead of continuously doing the right thing, they wind up doing the.
Well, I've always said politicians are people who want to be artists who do not have talent. What would you think of that? Because it's like they have the desire to want to have influence, fame. They definitely want fame. They definitely want to have influence, but they don't have any reason that would justify them to have any of those things. An artist at least is doing something. Song, dance, something.
Yeah, but I would think that a political person's main objective would be trying to help society and try to make it better, But
that is really a nice idea for you to think, but I mean, well, actually, you would know more than me, right? It's not like I've been inside of prisons boxing people for fun. Like you told me once you've been inside Rikers Island too, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I even got a plaque from there for getting more people a GED than anybody else ever did on the
island. So you were like teaching in Rikers Island?
I did both.
By both, you mean?
I visited before, and I was there.
Visited under what pretense?
All
right, I need you to explain that. How do you end up there, and then how do you end up coming back to teach? That's crazy.
Oh, because how it is, been a million times, coming up in different cities, you can wind up anywhere overnight or something like
this
that.
This is not addressing any of the reasons at all. You know how it is. Sometimes things, most people don't think it be like it is, but it do.
Yeah, no question about it. It's this system.
I assume this happened before the government said you're a special agent.
Yeah, and you know what? Not only that, Michael Moore, one time, I'm not, not throwing no shade on nobody. Somebody asked him, said, he's a professional boxer. And he said that you've never been, in the system or, experienced, anything. And he said, well, how could you actually say that, especially being an African-American guy growing up in certain cities, and being somewhere. You're always going to get harassed or stopped or have something at least once, and so, that almost becomes inevitable that somewhere along the line, you know, something like that will occur. So for me to sit and say that when we were kids in Camden during the time when they had the riots, you know, there were groups of guys that was, you know, apprehended. Martin Luther King, you know.
Camden, the mayor was like pinched by the FBI, right? Wasn't that a thing too?
Which mayor?
I'm basing this on American Hustle, the movie, so I'm sure the name's wrong.
Oh, you're talking about Angelo Ericetti.
Whatever, Abscam, right?
Yeah,
that was it.
Angelo Ericetti.
So he was the mayor who the FBI tricked into taking money.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know that could be kind of tricky because.
Of course, you know the whole story.
You know, because the reason I say tricky is because, you know, it's a possibility of entrapment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but then on the entrapment, you have to, you know, one of your defenses is that you had no intentions of doing anything corrupt. And you have to be consistently persuaded.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I've known guys who, you know, ex-police officers in Camden and politicians that actually did get entrapped and were convicted. And when I say did get entrapped and were convicted, is because I read on some instances where it was a preponderance of evidence to continuously.
What would be the difference between entrapment and consistently enticing?
Okay, well, consistently enticing and entrapment. Well, the entrapment, for instance, if you it's almost like a prisoner. When you get a prisoner and you keep beating them down constantly, tell them, say you're guilty, and they keep saying, no, I'm not guilty, I'm not guilty. And they get to the point that they just give up. And say, okay, what you need me to do? I believe that happened with the guy on The Real Rick Ross. I think he might have got
the guy who was trafficking all the cocaine for the CIA into neighborhoods.
Yeah, exactly. Because after he did his first prison bid, I believe, after he was done, I believe that, you know, after it was all over with, you know, from what I read and studied, looked like, you know, somebody decided to come get him again after he done left the business.
Oh, yeah. I mean, our government is totally cool with making patsies of people. It's all throughout history.
And then, you know, he wasn't interested until some way along the line they finally persuaded
They
him.
made him interested.
And that makes a lot of cases for the government because, you know, being consistent and constant, sometimes people just go ahead and give in and just say, okay, you know, just to get rid of it.
Well, it's easier than the harassment.
That's why there's so many criminal convictions that have been under scrutiny because, for instance, if you have a guy underneath a light for 24 hours constantly beating him down and he ain't had a glass of water or something like that.
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, you know, to finally get over the hump.
Well, I wasn't expecting to break down the issues with our torture system, but, you know, I tend to think enhanced interrogation works.
Well, you know, that's a good.
Let's just call it what it is.
Enhanced interrogation, yeah.
No child left behind. Those were words used together a lot. I think that was something Bush mentioned. You seem to know more about the government than you're letting on.
You know, I got friends that was with the Secret Service and the CIA.
So you were with the Secret Service and the CIA?
No, I was with none of them.
Okay, all right. So my bad.
But I have friends that were. You know, we have a great guy right from Camden, New Jersey, Charles Maddox, who is also now, he's an attorney.
Okay.
And he became the first black inspector general. He was the head of security for Richard Nixon, Secret Service security. For Richard Nixon, I think Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter. I think them three.
This intersection of like the government or politics not necessarily taking advantage, but using music or the art industry to get across messaging, or using them as a mouthpiece to do like take the 60s for example. They wanted to demonize hippies, so they just made them look like drug users and going to corrupt America. Like, there seems to be, like, they use artists as mouthpieces for things.
Well, yeah, but, you know, great artists also bring messages.
Yeah, their own.
You Gil Scott Heron one time had a record out, and in his record he said the revolution will not be televised.
And that's like one of the immortalized lines in American like history. Everyone knows what that, like everyone's heard that. They might not know where it comes from, but everyone's heard that sentence.
You know, and then Marvin Gaye, he had plenty of them. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Make me want to holler. You know, and those things are addressing the politics of the world then, which are the same as the politics of the world is today.
Well, sure, but then you got like a Charles Manson who was pretty big in the music industry and kept getting money from our own government and kept trying to make bands.
Yeah, but you know, Charles Manson, I guess he was more like some of the negative hip hoppers today. I can't.
That's an
really,
interesting equation.
Yeah,
that's a fair comparison.
You know, because I don't know. You know, when you talk about, you know, somebody being taking acid, LSD, and all that, and then he may have, because I mean, I don't know how you could get that frame of thought to do what he did.
Unless someone has a lot of money and drugs and wants you to do it just to see what happens, i.e. the government. Because I'm just saying, like today, you know, like Billie Eilish, for example. She's popular, and she looks like a 14-year-old girl who's used in a ceremony for something awful. Like, it just so clearly looks like there are still these industry plant-ish type of people there who have messages, but they're not their own messages.
Well, that's kind of ambivalent, because
That's fair.
Yeah, because you know there are people out here, unless the system will brainwash you too.
Yeah, well,
You know what I
music
mean?
is brainwashing.
Yeah, I mean the system will manipulate your mind, you know, and I mean there's subliminal seduction in music, subliminal seduction in the television. I mean, you know, matter of fact, now your cell phone is subliminally seducing you.
I don't even know if it's subliminal anymore. I mean, people are addicted. If anytime you're driving, just look over, someone's on their phone.
That's true, and it's not even legal to be on your phone when you drive.
It's very much not. But you don't seem to be someone who concerns yourself with what's legal or not that much.
Oh yeah, you know, laws are necessary because you know laws give a balance. Even though the government itself, they don't really make laws to protect the citizens as much as they make laws to control
of course,
the citizens.
Absolutely. And I think the reason you know that is because you're someone who has the mindset of like the opposite of everybody. And I think anyone who's in like art or in professionally art at all, they're slightly the opposite of everybody. Like they're not marching lock and step with what is just generally accepted. Because if you did, you'd be at a power plant or something. You wouldn't be trying to make music for money. You know, there's an element of craziness, I think, attached to the whole world.
Well, some of us have different callings, and when you get a certain calling, you know, you start answering to the call.
Well, you've gotten what, 6 or 7 callings?
Yeah. That's what the spirit does. It calls. You gotta follow the spirit. You know, like not getting biblical, you know, but
no, by all means.
I think it was it Jonah, where God told him to go to Tarsi, I believe was the town.
I'm such a bad,
you know,
Catholic.
but
This
anyway, he said, I ain't going
Mom.
there because I don't even like the people there.
See, that message, that's old as time.
But he went someplace else, and when he went someplace else, I think it was on the ship. And well, to make a long story short, the reason I'm saying that is because when you get that spirit of God to tell you that this is what I want you to do, and you say, well, I ain't doing that, I'm good. See, then there's something else might happen.
Yeah.
And not getting real biblical with you at all again. You know, I look at things today like the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, I get where you're going with this.
And the reason I'm thinking of that because, you know, man is trying to go, well, he's already went to the moon, trying to go everywhere in space. But, you know, he's thinking he's doing this all on his own and he's forgetting his creator.
There's a thing that makes you do the thing. You know, an object in motion stays in motion, but something put it in motion. You might not be aware of what your motivation is, but there is one. Like animals just do stuff, like we don't. There's something making you do the thing.
Well, we all have natural instincts, but, you know, a person's natural instinct should be able to sustain life, live in harmony. But when you get to a certain point, you want to be your own creator. You want all of a sudden you want to become God yourself. And so as you strive to do that, somewhere along the line you're gonna get misconstrued and misdirected.
You can't build a tower that reaches the sky.
Exactly. And then after that, remember, it becomes another ball of confusion. Another hit song that was written with the Temptations. Bad Gordy put it out, and it was called A Ball of Confusion. That's what the world is today.
Now, do you think music acts as like this thing that makes sense of it? Not to sound too esoteric or gay, but do you think music is this thing that kind of like puts this confusing thing we're experiencing in simpler terms with, here's my message for today, here's the point of this song?
Well, I think, music has always been used for a message because, when you look at the Psalms in the Bible, David and all the writers, they all wrote messages. Look at gospel writers today. They all writing, messages. And, even new hip-hop generation, if a guy's having a beef with another guy, he writes a message.
Yeah, it's pretty much, it's almost like you're writing a diss poem.
That's what they are doing.
Go write the Iliad. It's like, your camel-faced Joe Camel.
That's what today they're doing because they're not writing spiritual anymore.
Well, there's no incentive to. No one, spirituality or spiritualism in a person is not really rewarded at all. It's actually kind of mocked by people entirely.
Well, I guess you can say that because for some reason or another, they said that money was the root of all evil.
Yeah.
One of the pastors, Reverend Ike, you may not be familiar with him, I'm not sure.
Can't say that I am.
But Reverend Ike said the lack of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah, well, but then both of those are still true, right? That statement. If the lack of money is the root of evil because it makes you do evil, it's still because you don't have this thing money, which inherently must then be evil.
And then if you get too much money, get enough, the next thing you know, instead of helping other people, you start being evil with your money.
Yeah, I think you can I don't think you can. It's weird how I feel. Like I want everyone to be rich. I want you to have the opportunity to be rich, but I think you can have too much money. Like I don't want like to redistribute everyone's wealth or whatever, but I think you can have too much of it. I think you should be allowed to make as much as you can, but I think there becomes a hard number line where you've gone too far and then you're just fucked.
Well, I mean, there's too many billionaires in the world right now.
That's probably fair.
And the thing is, here's one of the problems. They don't think like Solomon. See, because if you have this kind of amount of money that you got, you could help eliminate the hunger. I think Tupac Shakur said once that you got money to start wars, but you don't have money to feed the hungry.
Or the people that are in the country where you're starting the war.
Exactly, true.
Is Tupac still alive?
No, he definitely.
Nah.
Yeah,
I like how quickly you were like, nah, like I believed that actually. You were like, I checked, he's dead, I killed him.
There's a lot of people out there right now say Elvis Presley, they seen Elvis someplace.
Elvis looks like every other fat white dude, though. Tupac was specific looking. I mean, he made a nose piercing cool.
I believe his Shasta Shakur, I believe is his.
I don't know if it. I think it might be Biggie, but either Tupac or Biggie, one of them doesn't have a death certificate to this day.
Oh, really?
It's kind of suspicious, and I'm sure you obviously know nothing about that.
No, absolutely got me on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
Okay, sure. Where is he? Where is he?
No
Robert?
idea. But Shasta Shakur, that's Tupac's aunt, I believe.
Yeah.
Tupac's uncle was maybe married to her.
Did you ever meet him?
Oh yeah, Tupac. Yeah.
But how? What? Tell me that.
No, just being in New York. I forgot what it was. I met most of the guys.
How much of an interesting life can you lead where you forget the time you met Tupac?
He wasn't. He was
ain't shit. I get it.
I think he was around the time he worked with Janet Jackson, maybe.
No, that's prime Tupac. Like
of course,
and stuff.
I now Biggie, I don't know. I mean, I've been around him, but of course, you know, as you know, he got locked up in Camden one time.
Oh, that's right. Of course you would. Wow. Of course you would know him then.
You know, I mean, don't
Well,
mean
around him.
I mean, I don't. No, I wasn't hanging around him, but
Well, he was a drug dealer and a criminal. That's a good idea.
He's a good rapper. But you know, so one of the producers I know, you know, they got into a little beef.
How'd that end for him?
Well, he was arrested. You know,
Swiftly.
Yeah, but anyway, he compensated and got himself out of it.
So you've had 8 different interesting lives that most people never get to have at all. What would you say to someone who feels like, I don't want this usual life. I feel slightly out of lock and step with society, and I kind of like art. How do I make money?
Make a good project and then get, you know, as a stepping stone, get a good project, then sell it to the next person.
Just keep selling,
you know,
like water filtration system.
I remember, I believe it was Percy Sutton, maybe that has the Apollo in New York. I believe there was one of the Motown specials, I believe, Barry Gordy, if I ain't mistaken, might have sold him one of the projects, even though Barry Gordy had more money than Percy. But what Percy did was he turned around and sold it and made a lot more money. So Barry Gordy gave him an opportunity to make some money.
So just make people money.
You know. So yeah, help another, as they say, help another person eat.
Yeah.
You know.
Let each one teach one.
You know, very well put. And
that felt really good. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You know, well you're pretty well rounded.
It's a fat joke.
You know.
Man, I'm not well dressed either. Robert, thank you, man, for having me here. This place is incredible. Your life is more interesting than mine has been thus far.
Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you all the time.
I appreciate it, man. And one more time, tell me what a sophisticated pimp is again.
A procurer.
That's the coolest thing I've ever heard.